Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm doing another video on Captain Underpants and the Big Bad Battle of the Bionic Booger Boy Part 2. So I'm going to be reading Part 2 of the series on my channel. This is Part 2 of the book, The Revenge of the Ridiculous Robo Burgers. So before we get started, make sure you smash the subscribe button, smash the like button, smash the notification bell. Check out my Instagram, Mark Brand TV, no capital letters, no spaces. And let's get right into it. Chapter 3, Mr. Melvin and Kruppy the Kid. Miss Anthrope collected her things and left her home, grumbling under her breath as she passed George and Harold in the hallway. The two boys could hear Mr. Melvin's angry shouts coming from down the hall, so they went to the office to investigate. While they were getting Melvin off the hook, Mr. Krupp ran into the office, sweaty and out of breath. "You guys have got to help me," he cried. "My mom and dad are trying to kill me. Has the world gone mad?" "Relax, Einstein," said George calmly, and put on some clothes. George and Harold had already figured out what was going on, so they tried to explain the situation to Melvin and Mr. Krupp. "You see," said Harold, "after you guys got morphed together with the Combinatron 2000, we switched the batteries around and separated you. But for some strange reason, it switched your brains around. Now, Mr. Krupp's brain is inside Mr. Melvin's body, and Mr. Melvin's brain is inside Mr. Krupp's body." "That's a bunch of bunk," yelled Melvin. "Take a look and see for yourselves," said George. He pulled a fuel-length mirror in front of Mr. Krupp and Melvin. They looked at themselves in astonishment. I'm a kid again," said the guy who looked like Melvin but had Mr. Krupp's brain. "And I'm the old and fat and bald guy," cried the guy who looked like Mr. Krupp and had Melvin's hair. "And I have bad breath and creepy nose hairs and—" "Hey!" yelled the guy who looked like Melvin but had Mr. Krupp's brain. At this point, you might be saying to yourself, "Dang, this book is getting confusing." Now don't worry, this will get cleared up by the end of chapter 17. But for now, let's rename the two characters who have the right brains and the wrong body, shall we? Let's call the guy who looks like Mr. Krupp but has Melvin's Sneezely brain like Mr. Melvin. And we'll call the kid who looks like Melvin Sneedly but has Mr. Krupp's brain Kruppy the Kid. Please refer to the handy X-ray chart below in case you get mixed up. Melvin's brain, Mr. Melvin. Mr. Krupp's brain, Kruppy the Kid. Chapter 4, Things Get Worse. Kruppy the Kid climbed up into his chair and demanded to know what was going to be done about this mix-up. "I could solve this problem right away if I still had my Combinatron 2000, said Mr. Melvin sheepishly, "but it got smashed in the last book." "Well, start building a new one, bub," shouted Kruppy the Kid. "Okay," whined Mr. Melvin, "but it'll take about 6 months. 6 months? Screamed Kruppy the Kid. "I can't go around looking like a kid for 6 months. I've got to go to school, Buster." "Sorry," Mr. Melvin whimpered, "but building a cellular combiner is extremely difficult. It takes time. It's not easy like building a robot or a time machine or a photoatomic transmogulating. I won't even read that." "Hey, wait a second," said George. "Did you just say that building a time machine was easy?" "Yes," said Mr. Melvin. "It just takes a day or two." "Why?" "Well, why don't you just build a time machine?" asked George. "Then we can go back in time before the Combinatron got smashed, grab it, and bring it back to the present time." Mr. Melvin thought for a moment, and then his eyes lit up. "I've got it," he said, snapping his fingers. I'll build a time machine, then go back to time before the Combinatron 2000 got smashed, grab it, and bring it back to the— Hey, what the heck is he doing?" Snap. Everyone turned and looked at Kruppy the Kid, who had just stripped down to his underwear and was now tying a red curtain around his neck. "Oh no," screamed George. Get some water, get some water." Harold ran out to the drinking fountain, but he was too late. Kruppy the kid shouted a triumphant tra-la-la, then turned and flew out the window. Chapter 5. Things Get Worser. Did you guys just see that?" cried Mr. Melvin. Kruppy the kid just flew out the window. He flew." "Yeah, we know," said George, with a sigh. That's amazing," cried Mr. Melvin. "He must think he's Captain Underpants or something. Or could our principal really be Captain Underpants?" "Well, duh," said Harold. But Mr. Krupp doesn't look anything like Captain Underpants," said Melvin frantically. "Captain Underpants is bald, and Mr. Krupp usually has hair. Hey, I know, maybe Mr. Krupp wears a toupee." "I thought you were supposed to be in the gifted program," said George. But how can he fly? Where did he get his superpowers?" asked Mr. Melvin. "It's a long story," said Harold. Mr. Melvin calmed down a bit, walked confidently across the room, and sat in the principal's chair. He leaned back and smiled a devilish grin. "Well, why don't you go ahead and tell me all about it?" said Mr. Melvin. "I've got all the time in the world." Chapter 6. Things Get Worserest. George and Harold had no choice but to come clean. They told Mr. Melvin the whole story of Captain Underpants, how they hypnotized Mr. Krupp, how he drank the alien superpower juice, and how his superpowers must have done somehow gotten transferred into Melvin's body along with Mr. Krupp's brain. While George and Harold were talking, the smile on Mr. Melvin's face grew wider and eviler and eviler. "What are you smiling about?" said George. "This is serious." "Yeah," said Harold. "We're all in big trouble if we don't switch things back to normal." "Correction," said Mr. Melvin. "You guys are in big trouble. All my troubles are over. Mr. Sneedley, I'm gonna get back into my old body, but keep those superpowers for myself. I'm gonna become the world's first superpowered kid." "Hey, you can't do that," said Harold. "I can do whatever I want," snapped Melvin. "I'm in charge of it now. I look just like the principal, so I'm gonna make the rules, and you guys are gonna follow them, or else." "Or else what?" George demanded. "Or else," snarled Mr. Melvin, "I'll order your teachers to give you guys 12 hours of homework every night for the next 8 years. That shut George and Harold up. Mr. Melvin's first order of the day was for George and Harold to make a new comic book about the world's first superpowered kid, Melvin Sneedley. "Give me a really cool name," said Mr. Melvin, "like Big Melvin or Mystery Melvin." "Mystery Melvin," said George and Harold in disbelief. "And make up a story where I defeat Captain Underpants and become the world's greatest superhero. And you better not make me look stupid either," Mr. Melvin shouted. "But we can't make a comic right now," said Harold. "We've got to chase after Captain Kruppy, the Underpants kid." You can chase after him all you want," said Mr. Melvin, "after you make that comic book. Now get going. I've got a time machine to build." Chapter 7. The Purple Potty. Mr. Melvin went out and bought all the things he needed to build this time machine. Now he just needed a place to build it. He wanted some place quiet and private, some place empty and secluded, a room that nobody ever used. "I've got it," he cried, "our school library." The library at Jerome Horsewood Elementary School had once been a wonderful place of knowledge and learning. But a few years back, the librarian, Miss Singerbrains, had begun banning most of the books. Now the library was filled with only rows of empty bookshelves and posters that warned of the potential supervised dangers of reading. It was the perfect place to hatch an evil plan. Mr. Melvin pushed his cart into the dusty, cobwebby room and flicked on the lights. I want you to stop reading. Challenge books, not minds. You'll ruin your eyes. Only schnooks read books. Reading might offend you. Why take a chance? Welcome, sir, said Miss Fingerbrains. Have you come to check out a book? No, said Mr. Melvin. I need to find a large box like a phone booth or something. There's a purple portable potty down in the basement, said Miss Fingerbrains. That'll do, Mr. Melvin said. Go get it for me. I can't carry that thing up 3 flights of stairs all by myself, cried Miss Fingerbrains. All right, said Mr. Melvin. I'll help you. Mr. Melvin supervised while Miss Fingerbrains carried the heavy potty to the top of the terrace steps. Good job, said Mr. Melvin. Now go clean out your desk. You're fired. Fired? Cried Miss Fingerbrains. What for? For the rest of your life, said Mr. Melvin. Chapter 8. Meanwhile, back in outer space. So we will stop here for now. I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure you smash the subscribe button, smash the like button, smash the notification bell. Check out my Instagram, MarkRandTV, no capital letters, no spaces, and I will see you in the next video.